It was a chilly Thursday evening at Riverwood Mall in Michigan. The parking lot lights flickered softly as people hurried to their cars, eager to escape the cold. Ryan, a 30-year-old engineer, walked quietly through the lot, his mind occupied with the routine of his stable but solitary life. He had built everything carefully, his career, his home, his habits. But there was always a quiet emptiness he could never quite explain. As he approached his truck, something made him stop. Near the trash bins, partially hidden in the dim light, sat a woman. She was thin, her clothes worn and dusty, her hand trembling as she held out a small tin can for spare change. Most people passed her without a second glance, their faces filled with brief pity before quickly looking away. But Ryan couldn't move. There was something about her. A strange pull tightened in his chest, like a warning he couldn't ignore. Slowly, he stepped closer. The woman lifted her head, and in that single moment, Ryan's world shattered. The faint scar near her temple, the shape of her lips, the eyes he once knew better than his own. Melissa. The name slipped out like a breath he had been holding for 12 years. Her eyes widened. The can fell from her hands, coins scattering across the pavement. Tears filled her eyes instantly, as if the past had come rushing back all at once. 12 years earlier, Melissa had been everything to him. They were young, deeply in love, and certain their future was already written. They had stood behind a small chapel one evening, exchanging promise rings and laughing about the life they would build together. Back then, nothing felt uncertain. Until one summer day in 2013, when she disappeared. No message, no explanation, no goodbye. Just gone. Ryan had spent years trying to understand. At first, he searched for her, called her friends, waited for any sign. But eventually, confusion turned into heartbreak, and heartbreak into something heavier, resentment. He convinced himself she had left him, maybe for someone else, maybe because she stopped loving him. That belief became the only way he could move forward. And now, here she was. Not the girl he remembered, but a shadow of her. He stepped closer, his voice shaking. "Why did you leave?" Melissa looked down, her hands trembling in her lap. For a moment, she said nothing. Then, barely above a whisper, she spoke. "I didn't leave you. I ran away from myself." Ryan frowned, confusion and pain clashing inside him. She took a deep breath, her voice breaking as she continued. 12 years ago, my little brother Joey died. There was a car accident. I was supposed to be watching him." Ryan felt the air leave his lungs. "I thought it was my fault," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I couldn't live with it. I couldn't face anyone, especially you. You loved me, and I didn't feel like I deserved that anymore." Her words came out in fragments, each one heavy with years of silence. "I wasn't strong enough to explain it. I wasn't strong enough to stay, so I just disappeared." Ryan stood there, frozen. For over a decade, he had carried a completely different story in his heart, a story where he was abandoned, betrayed. But the truth was something else entirely. "I thought leaving would make things easier for everyone," she continued. "But it didn't. It just made everything worse." She told him about the years that followed, moving from place to place, sleeping in shelters, sometimes on benches, sometimes not sleeping at all. She spoke of days without food, nights filled with regret, and a constant feeling that she didn't belong anywhere. "I kept telling myself I deserved it, that this was what my life was supposed to be after what happened." Ryan looked at her, really looked at her. This wasn't the woman who hurt him. This was someone who had been carrying unbearable pain alone for years. And suddenly, his anger didn't make sense anymore. Without thinking, he reached out his hand. Melissa hesitated, as if she didn't believe she was allowed to accept it, but slowly she placed her shaking hand in his. "Come on," he said gently. He led her to his truck. As soon as she sat inside, the warmth from the heater filled the space, and she closed her eyes for a moment, as if she had forgotten what warmth felt like. They drove in silence to a small diner nearby. Inside, Melissa sat across from him, staring quietly at the table as a bowl of hot soup was placed in front of her. At first, she hesitated again, but then she picked up the spoon and began to eat. Slowly at first, then with more urgency, as if her body remembered hunger before her mind could process it. Ryan watched her, his heart heavy, but also strangely calm. For the first time in years, something inside him felt clear. This wasn't about the past anymore. It wasn't even about answers. It was about this moment. After a while, he spoke. "You don't have to go back out there tonight." Melissa looked up, confused. "I have a spare room. You can stay, just until you figure things out." Her eyes filled with tears again. "Why would you do that for me?" Ryan paused, then gave a small, quiet smile. "Because maybe I was meant to find you." Weeks passed. At first, everything was fragile. Melissa barely spoke, moving through each day as if it expected it to disappear at any moment. But slowly, things began to change. She started eating regularly, sleeping through the night, smiling, just a little at first, then more often. They spent evenings talking, sometimes about the past, sometimes about nothing at all. Sitting outside under the stars, they shared pieces of themselves they both had buried for too long. Ryan realized something unexpected. Helping her heal was healing something inside him too. The pain he had carried for 12 years began to loosen its grip, not because the past had changed, but because he finally understood it. And Melissa, for the first time in years, began to believe she wasn't beyond saving. One night, as they sat quietly under the sky, she turned to him. "I never thought I'd have a second chance," she said softly. Ryan looked at her, then back at the stars. "Sometimes," he said, "we don't get the life we planned, but that doesn't mean it's over." Their story didn't magically become perfect. Healing never works that way. But step by step, day by day, they found something they both thought was lost forever. Peace. And maybe something even stronger than what they had before. Because sometimes the smallest moments, turning a corner, stopping for a second look, reaching out a hand, can change everything. Sometimes they can even save a life.